Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Take a breath with me, settle in with me. It's Saturday morning here. Let's light our candle. And while this candle burns, may it dedicate our time together to the highest good for healing, for joy, for well being, for connection. All right. There we are. Well, hi. Welcome back. I'm so excited to have you with me today. I am in a much better headspace this time. I can't even tell you. I'm so glad that we got the very first one out of the way. Oh, I was so high on adrenaline. My prefrontal cortex was completely shut down. I'm a little bit more on the earth today. Yeah. So it's been a heck of a week. Big week, you guys. One of my themes this week was it's a growth edge for me, maybe not for you. But one of the growth edges for me this week was actually communicating the hard things to people that I don't like what's happening. This was not a winning strategy for me in my childhood or my first marriage. So it's my growth edge. I'm practicing. And this week, for the first time in 2 decades, I told a parent that I was hurt by one of their actions, and it went okay. It went a heck of a lot better than it did 20 years ago, I'll tell you that. And the other one, which this is just a really cute, easy, sweet story. So there's this like forest mandala that I like to maintain. There's a little eucalyptus grove by my house. And, I use like seashells and rocks and sticks and pieces of bark. And, cool, let's make like a compass rose pointing north, or, ooh, let's make a spiral here, right? Like I've been playing around with it for several years just on my own now. But a few months ago, some mysterious person started doing it with me. I still don't know who. Okay, wait. No, I do now, but I did not. For months and months, I just like come up to the mandala and like, oh, whoa, someone put these sticks in the what? And it was this fun like back and forth. Haha, cool, we're collaborating. And then I got tired of like the compass rose crosshatch. And so I would like do spirals. And then they would come back and make the compass rose crosshatch again. And this just kept going back and forth, and it kept getting like almost more and more heated. Cause like at first it would be like a week and no one would touch it. And then every few days it would be, and then it was like literally every single day we would be sneaking up there and changing it to what we wanted, not knowing who each other was, just like kicking off each other's changes. And then I realized, oh, I'm a grown up. I can just communicate. And I left a little note being like, hey, I'm kind of done with the cross hatches. Could it be something else? And what do you know? They left me a note back. Like, yeah. And it's just been really sweet ever since. You would not believe like how heated I was feeling about like, it's the motherfucking cross. Who's doing this? So that's just my little plug for the growth edge of the week. Communicate to people if you don't like what's happening. It could work out nicely. Also, in terms of this being a big week, like, I just got to mention, you guys, hey, wow. Remember when the government tried to abolish gender? That was a whole thing. Wow. I'll admit that really got me heated up. And when I finally calmed down enough to go and read it, did you guys read it? Here's the title. Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. Whoa. I mean, whoa, guys. That is some 1984 double speak right there. Whoa. Whoa. Um, yeah, I in this past week when it happened, as I was moving through my feelings, I had so many things to say and feel, and I was in my head all week being like, "Oh, I'm totally gonna say this on the live stream," and oh, whoa. I was really, really personally angry and personally afraid, because, like I mentioned, my extremely handsome partner is a trans man, and the federal government wants him to put F for female on his passport now. That is humiliating and degrading, and it feels dangerous on so many levels. And when I went and actually read the text of the executive order, I just recommend it when you feel morally, spiritually strong and shielded. Like, go in and read it. Maybe you've seen the highlights by now, but like, female is the one at conception who produces the large reproductive cell, and male is the one at conception who produces the small reproductive cell. If you don't remember biology at conception, all of us are biologically female, so that's curious. But I haven't even seen anybody talking about this, and this is the part that really gets me. Ooh, what are the large and small reproductives? Why is that? Is that your phrasing? Where did that come from? I don't think that's a biological term. I've never seen that before. It like all it can make me think of is like prepubescent awkward congressman being like, "Oh no, I can't say sperm. That makes you gay." Like, what the heck? So weird. So weird. This week, I also took the opportunity, because it was so distressing to see Billionaire Row at the inauguration, and it just made me freaking mad that I finally another like 20-year long thing, you guys. Whoa. I deleted my Facebook account, which I got in 2005, coming in as a college freshman back in the days when it was the Facebook and you had to have a .edu college email address to register. Gone. Don't want it anymore. Screw you, Zuckerberg. Deleted Instagram. Also, deleted TikTok. Because I was just so darn mad about that stunt that they pulled. If you're not familiar with it, Trump initiated the TikTok ban back in 2020, tried to. And then it finally got legislated this past year. It faced a last-minute Supreme Court ruling, which said that the ban could go ahead. And so TikTok shut down this past Sunday morning, but with a little banner saying, "But we're so lucky that President Trump is saying that he's going to restore TikTok." And then they restored it the next day with literally saying like, "Thank you, President Trump, for saving TikTok." And I just can't, you guys. Like, what 3D chess ad campaign nonsense is that? So, bye-bye Twitter. Sorry. Also, bye-bye Twitter. I never had Twitter, but screw you, X. Screw you, Elon Musk. Screw all of the big tech billionaires. I'm okay. I cannot yet divest from Google and YouTube. The Google CEO, Sundar Pichai, he was also at inauguration. So that's like, I'm like 4 out of 5 divested. They just made me mad. All right. Anyway, that's my chit chat. It's been a big week, you guys. Drop a comment. Let me know. How's it been for you? But let's get into something sweeter. Let's get into the books of the week. There have been some really good books this week. we started Cat Sebastian, We Could Be So Good. All right. I love me a queer romance, obviously. How about a historical fiction queer romance? Yes. 1950s New York. The rough and tumble Italian immigrant reporter falls for the undiagnosed ADHD son of the newspaper owner. At first, they're just friends. Son of the owner gets engaged. Then it doesn't work out. Then they're roommates and just friends. But wait a minute, do we have a little baby bisexual awakening on our hands? Yes, we do. And it's a really great look into 1950s New York and the oppression that the LGBT population faced, but also the resistance and the little pockets of like, well, but We Like It Hot just came out, and that was sure gender queer. And yeah, so it was really good. Highly recommend We Could Be So Good by Cat Sebastian. Next, One Last Stop by the marvelous Casey McQuiston. You might recognize her name because she wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue. Also really good. Very famous, got turned into a movie. One Last Stop, another queer romance with one of the most mind-bending premises I've ever heard of. Lil Cutie moves to New York for the first time, has a meet cute with a hot butch Asian lady on the subway. Turns out Subway Girl is actually stuck in some sort of time bendy weird thing where she's alive. She's not a ghost or anything, but she is stuck on that particular subway line, and she's from 1977. Yeah, I know. That's an unusual one. And it's great. Casey McQuiston, she pulls it off. There's love, there is complexity, there's a diverse and lovable cast of queer characters, drag queens, and I didn't even realize. That's so cute. I didn't even realize these are both like New York-based books, but like queer 1950s New York, queer 2020s New York, very different. They almost make New York sound like a cool place to be. Not for me. I hate it. I need nature. Not New York, but still, highly recommend. All right. Real left turn here. Extremely Hardcore Inside Elon Musk's Twitter by Zoe Schiffer, a nonfiction with incredible investigative reporting chronicling Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. And I'll be honest, I did not read all of it. I think people should. It's incredibly well written. The level of reporting just blows my mind. I did not read all of it because just within the introduction, but within the few chapters that I did read, it immediately becomes clear that Elon Musk is a megalomaniac, nerd boy, weirdo, just looking to stroke his ego and like do a weird tech boy world takeover. As I suspected. Confirmed. Still, recommend. Very good book. Recommend highly. And then, no, not our last one. Our one graphic novel of the week, George Takei, They Called Us Enemy. This is a graphic novel going through George Takei's experience when he was 4 years old being sent to the internment camps during World War II. And oh my gosh, this might be my highest recommendation of the week. The artwork is very beautiful. The story is poignant, but also told from George Takei's childhood eyes. And so there's a lightness and a sweetness to it. And it's the overlay of his childhood memories of like fun games and like his mom sneaking treats onto the train for them, with the adult perspective of like, oh my gosh, and really, really seeing the story for what's going on. And I really appreciate the accuracy of the reporting and like the historical details, because it walks you through it. Like, okay, there was Pearl Harbor, and then there was this executive order, and then the attorney general was saying these things, and then there was this congressional, right? And like, you just really get a feel for the history of it, and the pace of government, and the machinations of government, and the kind of things that our government says when they want to imprison an entire swath of the population. And I just realized this. This was on the librarian's recommended shelf this week. And that is really cute. There is a fierce librarian out there, because all of this was kicked off very famously with Executive Order 9066 by FDR. And was this a week for executive orders or what? So I see you, little local librarian. Thank you. All right, and our last one, Becoming Ted by Matt Cain. Y'all, this was just a little sweetheart walk in the park, so cute little book. Ted is married to his sexy husband until the husband suddenly dumps him, and then he gets to start untangling all the ways that, whoops, even though I thought I was super happy and in love, actually, I don't like my job, and I was subduing myself, and actually my husband was kind of mean, and family dynamics, and right. So like, it's a great look at kind of the subtle ways that people can exert control and just dim your shine. But guess what? Ted finds his shine. Also, there's drag and there's romance, and it's just good. So, recommend. Here we go. So go pick up a book. That's my challenge and invitation for you in this next week. And it's now time for us to get into our section of reading. Now, last week, if you'll recall, we talked about living from the body and using your body as a compass and saying no to things that you don't want to do, which is great right up until the point where we realize that this world is awful and there's a lot of things that I don't want to do, but I have to do. And we were just asking, how did it get this way? All right, let's go. Well, how to get this way? Story time. There's this little thing called the patriarchy. Maybe you've heard of it, but let's break it down. Our world is built on a system of beliefs. We're currently in what I believe is the end phase of a human experiment with this particular belief system, as we're seeing all of its toxic results writ large. Back in the day, for most of human history actually, it appears we lived under different belief systems than we do now. A lot is lost in the shroud of prehistory, so it's hard to say definitively. But it looks like for most of the Paleolithic and Neolithic periods, people lived with more of an earth-based, goddess-based system. Check out Lithuanian archaeologist Marija Gimbutas's book, The Language of the Goddess, for images of the tens of thousands of goddess figures they found from this period. They're pretty cool. And I have a treat for you today. We're going to see if we can manage it. But I do have her books, of course. Language of the Goddess, The Living Goddesses. So let's see if I can get one of these babies up on camera for you. They're just okay. Starting off hot. Let's see if you can see this. This is, you can see that for sure. Yep, that's a Vulve pottery. Right there. Yep, pottery, Vulve. Also, lots and lots of very pregnant ladies. Yeah. So many goddess sculptures and figures. They're really great. Oh, yeah. boobs, hips everywhere. And saving my favorite for last. Oh, I was really struck as I was looking through these by just how much I am a 20th century white American, because I am not used to seeing artistic, religious, spiritual portrayals of vulvae. That stands out to me. Okay, I'll show you. There we go. Can you see the whorls and spirals? That's a cool little statue right there. Let me read you this. Interest centers on the vulva of this terracotta figurine, which is flanked by semicircles and surrounded by spirals and meanders. Interest centers on the vulva. Sure does. Okay, last one. But oh, she's a good one. Yeah, can you see her? Can you see what's going on? This is the Sheila na gig from medieval Ireland and England was incorporated and honored in old churches. Sheila na gig, with her round eyes and large vulva, is none other than the ancient frog or toad goddess, the birth giver and regeneratrix. How great is that? That's the frog goddess with her large vulva. Can you believe? Anyway, yes, check them out on your own. Cool books. So some of the common values of these earth-based cultures the world over are interconnectedness, the sanctity of life, reverence for the mysteries of birth, death, and rebirth, cycles and seasonality, peacekeeping and right relations, and the connection between the spiritual and material worlds. At some point, though, this all changed. Our best idea right now is called the Kurgan hypothesis, which says between 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, groups of people from Eastern Europe or Central Asia started migrating into Western Europe. These Kurgan cultures were primarily patrilineal, authoritarian, and militaristic, bringing with them the domestication of horses and the use of the wheel. Now, admittedly, it's foggy here, and archaeology is a complicated field, but here's my very simplified gist. Old Europe equals matrifocal, peaceful, egalitarian, nature/earth/mother goddess. And then we eventually moved to a post-Kurgan migration Europe, which is patrilineal, warlike, authoritarian, with a father/son god. Does that sound familiar? It's the birth of little baby patriarchy right here. Now, where did the Kurgans get it from? I don't know. I keep wondering that myself, but the answer is probably lost to history. The best I can say for right now is seems like something that we as human beings got to work through. Also, apologies that this is once again a European dominant history. I'm not talking about what was happening in the Americas or anywhere else at this time, even though these are riveting and important stories and they don't get enough airtime in our schools. Please bear with me though. I do think that what's happening in Europe at this time plants the seeds for what will eventually grow to impact the entire world. So here we are, 4,000 to 2,000 BC-ish, and we take these Kurgan ideas and run with them. We got the Greeks and their male-dominated pantheon of gods and goddesses. We got the Romans and their expansionist empire conquering most of Europe. And then, from the ashes of their declining empire comes a new belief system, Christianity. Originally a beacon of hope for Jewish people facing Roman tyranny, over the next 400 years it morphed into roughly the version we know today. Here are some of its key features. Male god, father to son inheritance, women subservient to men, women the cause of all sin and suffering, aka patriarchy. War, violence, revenge upon enemies, imperialism. Nature, earth, body is bad or unholy. Heaven, sky, spirit is good and holy. Patriarchy. Sex is bad and shameful. Also patriarchy. Other people are bad or unholy or less human. They should be converted or conquered. This is white supremacy and imperialism. And the natural world is for material gain. And that's capitalism. Do you recognize this? This is the system of values and beliefs that have shaped Western society for the past 2,000 years. To be short, we call it the patriarchy, or its longer name, from author and activist bell hooks, imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. Each piece of this term corresponds to one of the Christian values above. That's where they stem from. Wow, that's really messed up. You must hate Christians, huh? I really don't. The original teachings of Jesus Christ and his disciples were actually quite lovely. A radical spirit of love, kindness, and service to others, confronting injustice and uplifting the oppressed. I mean, Jesus himself, as a historical figure, caring for the least of these and speaking out against the oppressive Roman government? So hot! But the texts that were eventually compiled to make up the New Testament were not codified until nearly 400 years later, and there have been over 1,000 years of church politics since then. Christianity shifted from being an underdog religion to being the ultimate seat of power and influence, and most of its focus shifted to keeping that power. I don't see it as the fault of the religion itself. I see that there is still a living core of love within it that burns brightly and inspires many people to live braver, kinder lives. But yes, the Christian tradition as a whole has a lot to answer for that even to this day it has not. Wait, there's more? Oh, yes. So far, this has just been the birth of the Christian patriarchal system. Over the next 2,000 years, Christianity would go on to spur Europeans into acts of unthinkable carnage and suffering upon many groups of people, including Muslims, the Crusades from 1095 to 1291, between 1 million and 9 million casualties. Women, the witch trials, the 1300s to 1800s, between 40,000 to 60,000 executions. Africans, the transatlantic slave trade, 1525 to 1866, 12.5 million people taken. Also, colonization from 1833 to 1914, where up to 90% of the continent was under European control, with up to 10 million estimated deaths. Indians, British colonization from the 1750s to 1947, 100 million to 165 million deaths. Indigenous North Americans, British, French, Spanish colonization, slavery, genocide, and forced assimilation from the 1600s to late 1900s, up to 96% population drop with 98% loss of ancestral homelands. Indigenous South Americans and Caribbeans, Spanish and Portuguese colonization and genocide, 1500s to 1900, 90% population loss, perhaps 130 million casualties in the Americas between the late 15th to late 17th centuries. And this is probably a good place to hear about the doctrine of discovery, just as a side note, if you haven't heard about that yet. The doctrine of discovery was a series of 3 papal bulls, kind of like executive orders by the Pope. Come here. And they authorized European explorers to seize all lands they came upon in the 1400s. Seize all lands they came upon and convert, enslave, or kill the people there. This set the tone for the next hundreds of years of colonization and still impacts legal decisions today. Devastatingly, RBG herself cited the doctrine of discovery as recently as 2005 in a ruling denying the Oneida Nation of New York to regain their territory. And coming back to our list, final entry, atrocities against children committed by the Catholic Church in the form of sexual abuse by clergy from the 1500s to the present. That one is uncountable, but there is a finding that 333,000 children in France had been sexually abused by clergy in the past 70 years. And just a note on the data, you guys. I'm not an archaeologist or a historian. This isn't my specialty. That's not my PhD data. This is some good and thorough internet researching with as verifiable and trustworthy sources as I could find. If you do happen to have more information on some of these numbers, please let me know. Very curious to hear. But moving on. Wow, I've never seen it all laid out like that. Yeah, it really hits you, doesn't it? We're taught all this stuff in school, true, but without a sense of the real human impact. But when we start to dip our toe into considering all of this experientially, the sheer scope of the human suffering is vast. It is incomprehensible. I mean, sure, that's all really bad stuff, but that was all hundreds of years ago. What does it have to do with today? Well, you see, my friend, I'm not just any therapist. I'm a trauma therapist. And when it's your job day in and day out to witness and heal the impacts of trauma, you start to get really good at recognizing it. And when I look at our recent human history, I see a tale of trauma and devastation that is hard to even wrap my mind around. I know just how much time and energy it takes to heal a single person. In EMDR training, we learned that it takes on average 3 to 5 sessions to resolve one single incident trauma. In practice, I typically see it goes a bit quicker, but never mind. So keep that in mind as we think about the past few thousand years of human history. It boggles the mind, doesn't it? In our shared history, there is so much pain and trauma that has never been addressed. So much that to this day remains unresolved and unacknowledged. See, trauma and its impacts don't just go away with time. They are the invisible forever chemicals that persist from generation to generation if not addressed, shaping our lives, our parenting, our policies. At this point, every one of us has a heavy burden of trauma coming down our generational pipelines, whether from the oppressors, the oppressed, or both. Violence, addiction, mental health issues, poverty. Who among us doesn't have these show up in our family trees? Wait a minute. How do the oppressors have trauma? They were the ones doing all the bad things. Sure, you're right. But let's not think for 1 second that the people doing all that rape and torture were emotionally well. We know now that violence inflicts psychological damage on the perpetrator as well as on the victim. Just ask soldiers returning from combat. The human spirit is not meant to cause harm. Not only that, these abuses were carried out primarily by men. Think about what life must have been like for all of the other people history leaves out. The women, the children. What were their lives like? What kind of husbands and fathers did they have? The oppressors were the ones causing harm, but it absolutely followed them home as well. We know in more recent history what it's like when soldiers with untreated PTSD returned home. Without support and proper treatment, addiction and violence often followed, and they and their families paid the price. So even the oppressors, the Western Europeans and their descendants, live with trauma. For some of us, these people are our ancestors, passing on their emotional legacy. For all of us, though, they were the ones shaping the culture. What's considered right, what's considered normal, all of it informed by the conditions of the time. And this culture became our culture, the one we live in right now, day to day, just trying to survive and make sense of things. In fact, say it's fair to say that our culture is traumagenic, arising out of trauma and continuing to cause it. You're talking a lot about trauma, but what even is it? And how does our culture cause it? Great question. And that's actually where we're going to stop for today. So think about that. Get excited for next week when we are going to talk about what even is trauma. All right. So next we're going to move on to our Q&A portion. I was thinking about last week, and if you didn't see it, my good friend Seth asked me to define the divine feminine, which is my primary faith tradition. And I just wasn't satisfied by my answer last week, partially because I now know that speaking extemporaneously, staring at a webcam out of my mind on adrenaline is not my best working mode. Now we know. But also because what is the divine feminine? That's a question that I am answering continuously. I am trying to answer that with my every breath and heartbeat. And I'm discovering that every day, and I'm trying to live it out every day. So I actually think it would be more fun. I want to make that a recurring feature on this live stream. So here's my answer this week. I'm taking this from a document that I had to write in seminary, the core comps. Is this like massive 20-page paper? They ask you lots of different questions about your own understanding with the divine, but also things that you learned in classes and spiritual care. And it was a really cool paper. So this is the very first question. It asks you to describe your understanding of the divine. Here we go. So for me, the divine is immanent, transcendent, and eternal. She is the dark matter that pervades the cosmos. She is the butterfly. She is my littlest toe and my grandest ambition. She is the voice that whispers to all the prophets across all the ages, urging us toward the highest good, whether or not she was recognized at the time as the one delivering the message. She is the cosmic void, Bhuvaneshwari, Sunyata, oneness, Holy Spirit. She is every named god and goddess that has ever been, according to which face we needed to see at the time. She exists at every level of reality, spiritual and physical. She is my body, my every emotion. My highest self is a drop from her ocean, and she is the ocean. So if you have thoughts or comments on that, drop them in the chat. Any questions? Questions about the history we read today, about patriarchy, drop them in the chat and I will answer them. But otherwise, we're coming to the end of our session today. So, you know what we do. We sing it out. And I do feel more comfortable about that this week too. I was thinking about it, and it's really not me trying to show off how good of a singer I am for you guys. That's not the point. That's not why we're doing it. It's because it's just a good thing to sing together. To breathe and feel the music and sing. So that's what we're going to do. And this is one of my favorite songs, and I'm picking it today because last week I talked about my voice dropping and having to adjust to that. But this is one of the good parts. My voice dropped perfectly into this song range. I used to have to try to capo it up because I couldn't sing it in its original key. Now I can. I love this song so much. We sing it as the goodbye song whenever someone leaves our co-housing community. And you probably know it, so sing along. Green Day, Good Riddance. Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind. Hang them on a shelf for good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. Woo! Yeah! I love that song. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, guys. Loved spending this time with you. And as we blow out our candle and close for the day, may you walk away with something good. May the sun shine upon you. May your heart be light. May you spend time with people you love. And I'll see you next week. Bye.